The taste of Litecoin, bear tears. What's going on, everybody? Litecoin is absolutely rallying. We've got like a 30% day today. I'm going to go into a couple of things going on. We're going to look at the chart. We're going to look into an article as well. And I'm also going to show you guys how close the halving is and what typically happens leading up to it and after. So if you guys like these Litecoin videos, consider hitting the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Check out the links down below to some free stocks and cryptos if you're interested. And consider joining my membership to support me. It's $2 a month. Now let's get into this video going over Litecoin. And first off, sorry if I seem a little excited. It's very nice waking up to a 30% update just out of the blue on something like Litecoin. But this is something a lot of us have been waiting for and hoping for. Now, first off, we have this article to go over here. And this is likely why Bitcoin Cash has been rallying. I think some money is going to rotate into Litecoin. So let's take a look at this here. Now, I will leave this down below for you, but basically this EDX market, which is a new crypto exchange that's backed by major Wall Street players like Charles Schwab, Citadel, and Fidelity. Now, EDX, which launched last week, decided to let its traders, which are institutional investors only, they allowed them to start off with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. And the reason for this is regulatory clarity. And as said by Say Labs co-founder Jeff Fang, these specific cryptocurrencies are generally perceived as commodities by regulatory bodies, which significantly mitigates potential legal challenges. And Yue Yang, which is the chief economist at BTCM, added that the four assets are widely regarded as digital commodities, making them relatively safe. Similar thing that Jeff Fang just said. And adds that they are made with electricity, a commodity. Okay. Now, it also mentions Gary Gensler, but essentially he's made it clear that Bitcoin is a commodity, while being less clear on Ethereum. And of course, we have the CFTC wanting control of commodities because they're the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission. They've, of course, said that the assets are a commodity. And of course, since Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin are both forks of Bitcoin, this essentially means that they're likely to have the same status in the eyes of regulatories as they essentially came from Bitcoin, which is a commodity. Now, I've been saying over the last couple months that I do see Litecoin as a relatively safe coin. It typically gets lumped in with Ethereum, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. You know, these are like the four that I really do see as the safest plays right now. And combine that with the halving coming up for Litecoin and of course the halving down the road for Bitcoin. We will go into the halvings in a second here. But you know, I've been believing in Litecoin over the last couple months, you know, even back towards last summer when this was in the 50s. Now, Greg Moritz, which is the co-founder at the crypto hedge fund AltTab Capital, believes that key factors in the decision-making process of EDX's backers is the fact that none have been listed by the SEC as securities, and that these four assets are established and have history. We know that the SEC was attacking a lot of coins, Cardano, Solana, a lot of the smaller coins, and they did leave out Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash. Now, we do have something positive in terms of other cryptos, but it's really based on regulations. And EDX Markets CEO Jamil Nazarali, God, these guys all have such interesting names. He said, as regulations evolve and the understanding of different cryptos become more nuanced, we could anticipate exchanges like EDX broadening their offerings. Now, like I said, I'll leave that article down below for you. I skipped over a couple things there. But what do you think about Litecoin? Do you think we're going to continue seeing a pump well past the upcoming halving? One thing we typically see is we see a pump in anticipation of the halving, and I'm talking about Litecoin's halving. And then afterwards, it's kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news event where after the halving comes around, we start seeing a bit of a sell-off. And then later on, a recovery and a run back up because of Bitcoin's halving that's right around the corner from Litecoin's halving. We'll look at the halvings right now, but I'm just curious what you think. Is Litecoin going to continue running? Is this all the juice that we have left in it? Is it going to do what it's always done where we see a sell-off after Litecoin's halving and then an anticipatory run-up into Bitcoin's halving? Let me know down below in the comments. And let's look at a couple things halving-wise and chart-wise. And yes, Litecoin's halving is roughly a month away, just 33 days away from now. Now, I did want to show you how it typically performs on its halvings. You'll see that Litecoin's halving right here, we saw an anticipatory run-up. And literally only a couple of days before the halving, it started falling back down. People started taking profit. The halving came around. We saw more of a drop and then a slow push upwards into Bitcoin's halving. And we saw the same thing in the second halving. We saw it run from around $19 all the way to over $100. And then just like the first halving, we had a few days before the halving where people took profits and it started continuing down. You can pretty well see the trend here. You know, we have this uptrend. Once we break this trend, that's typically your sell signal. We saw this uptrend. Once it broke this trend, sell signal to find a better price entry. Now, will we see this again because of all this buying pressure from this EDX market? History definitely doesn't have to repeat, but it does tend to rhyme, so I'm keeping that in mind. And so far, everything's been playing out according to plan. And looking at Litecoin on the chart, it's actually really hard to believe that this has been in an uptrend for over a year now. Since June of 2022, Litecoin has been pushing higher. It found its floor back in June of 2022, right around $40. And it's been on this beautiful uptrend ever since, just following this channel. Now, it did have a lapse where it broke this channel to the downside, and you see that there's a clear reaction to this channel. We saw a break, we saw a resistance found right here, a little bit more of a pullback where we just touched oversold. You'll notice that it didn't go drastically under the oversold mark, it just touched it. That to me shows buying pressure. And just like with Bitcoin, when you're seeing on the chart that it's oversold to a lesser extent and it becomes overbought and overbought and overbought, of course there's pullbacks after it becomes overbought so much, but you know, that's something to think about sentiment wise. When you're seeing a chart on the RSI and it's just barely touching oversold and then bouncing while it breaks past overbought and continues going, to me that just kind of gives a clear idea on how sentiment is going. So even with the break of this pattern, you know, there was buyers stepping in on this once it barely touched oversold. To me, that shows that there's quite a bit of buying pressure in Litecoin, and I think this will continue for a short period as we approach this coming halving. Now remember that before the halving happens, typically there's a sell-off, so I am anticipating in roughly 20 days or so that we will probably sell off a bit and there will be some profit taking. Now, another thing I wanted to show you guys is we recently just saw a death cross, but then we also saw a golden cross after that. And our previous golden cross was back here in November of 2022, where we saw this golden cross right around $60. It popped up all the way to $100. And by the time we actually saw the death cross, if you would have just taken profit, once you've seen the death cross, it would have still nearly been a double up. And for those of you that don't know, a golden cross is when the 50 breaks back above the 200, whereas a death cross is where the 200 breaks the 50. And right here you'll see the 200, you'll see that the 50 broke over the 200, which is a bullish sign. But let me quickly mention the death cross that we saw here. Price started consolidating, these two lines started getting closer and closer together, and then we saw this sell-off here. And I think this sell-off, because the moving averages are giving us lagging data, we saw this sell-off here, and then shortly after we actually started running, and then we saw that death cross. We consolidated, pulled back, tested this channel once more, this bottom line on this channel, to see if we were going to break it once more, which would have probably brought in more selling pressure if we were to break that. But no, it was quickly bought up, and we saw this golden cross, which I think was actually from this run here. Remember that these are lagging. So now that we saw this run, over the next couple days, if we can consolidate, create maybe a bull flag here, not sell off too much, these lines are gonna bounce off of each other, meaning the 50 will continue higher while the 200 just slowly and steadily rises up this channel. But this is great to see. Litecoin just broke a recent high, is over $105, which we haven't seen for literally over a year. Now, another thing you need to watch, because this is something that we saw in anticipation of the previous halvings, is volume. If volume continues going, I'm going to continue to ride this. But just keep an eye on the trends. Once the trend is broken, that's probably when it's time to start taking a bit of profits and consider, you know, trimming some off the top and anticipating a pullback after this halving coming up. Now you might be wondering, it's ran so much, should I buy today? I would personally wait. I would probably see how it does here at 103. If we bounce off of this as a support, it was a previous resistance. If we can consolidate here, I would not be surprised in the least to see Litecoin start consolidating here and forming a bit of a bull flag right on top of these previous resistances. So I am watching for this just to kind of bounce. You know, maybe it can even come down to around 100 and bounce, because that's a psychological number. But I do expect a little consolidation, the RSI to cool down a bit. But, you know, you don't want to chase a huge run like this, 30%. You know, regardless of how I think this is going to continue going up, I do expect, you know, a little bit of a pullback, RSI to reset, you know, some price to consolidate here. And then we're either going to see a breakdown and a test of this channel again, somewhere around 90, or we're going to see a break up and a test on this ascending, this, you know, the resistance line that we haven't really touched since February. And this would place it somewhere in the 130 area. But let me know what you guys think about Litecoin below. Is this going to continue to the halving? Is it just going to continue pumping until Bitcoin's halving, which is right around a year from now? Are we going to see a run up towards the end of August and then a pullback kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news, which is what we typically see of Litecoin's halvings? Let me know in the comments below. Sorry if I was a little all over the place. I don't think I've had enough coffee yet. And of course, Litecoin's 30% day today has me a bit pumped. But thanks as always for watching, guys. I'll catch you later. Enjoy your weekend.